effective-led change accounts for over 80% of projects coming in under budget. So research tells us that the quality of change management strongly affects the outcomes for organizations. So how exactly did this fare for Netflix? I'm Mark Doherty on behalf of Team 10, and let's get into this topic. Change is ubiquitous. Organizations either fail or succeed based on their ability to lead and manage change. And no better example of this than Netflix, where it successfully reinvented itself in order to remain competitive, becoming the largest entertainment company in the world, valued at over $2 billion. Wow. But how did it all start? Well, despite being the powerhouse that it is today, it very much started from humble beginnings. Founded in 1997, it started out as a mail order company delivering DVDs. The business model later changed in favor of an all-you-can-watch monthly subscription service. However, after the dot-com bubble burst, the company started losing money and was forced essentially to lay off 30% of its employees. Furthermore, they were still the new kid on the block, unprofitable, struggling for wallet share in an entertainment market with well-established giants such as Blockbuster and Hollywood Film dominating the segment. Things did change at the beginning of 2002 when customers started ordering more and more DVDs. However, with 30% of employees gone, Netflix simply could not keep up with the demand. There were pressures from the remaining employees that were overwhelmed by the amount of work and felt that other companies' policies and style were preventing them from being productive and creative. For example, the employees felt learning was constrained, the reward system was too performance focused. And interesting though, they were in the entertainment industry. However, the culture had no mention of fun at work. A transformational change was essentially required. So what happened? Netflix recognized the opportunity gap that in the long run, the only sustainable source of competitive advantage was their ability to learn faster than its competitors. Netflix's goal essentially was to create a learning organization. Realizing they were faltering, they wanted to create an environment where individuals were not inhibited by a myriad of rules, and they wanted to allow them to continuously learn and basically become the best version of themselves. The Netflix and management agreed that by becoming a learning organization, it depended on flexibility, responsiveness, and new capabilities. But at the core of their organization, their values simply did not align with the strategy. As a result, they sought to renew these, changing from excellence and respect to freedom and responsibility. With the change in values, one in structure was also needed. They realized that by being too bureaucratic, it was not aligning to the values. Becoming flatter in structure was required in order to align with the new values and in order to unlock the energy and creativity. Kotter eloquently describes leadership as mobilizing a group of people to jump into a better future. Hastings brought in talent officer Patty McCord to help the company move away from a conventional performance management approach and jump towards a practice of engaging people's innate enthusiasm for learning. They were both critical to executing the change, as they had the vision, the dynamic thinking, and creativity to design an image for the future, which was leading the entertainment industry by fostering learning and knowledge sharing. This revolutionary idea united everyone together around a common sense of destiny. They empowered employees by encouraging them to be big risk takers, echoing the same purpose, behaviors, and values of its leadership. These characteristics essentially helped the company evolve. In terms of the business system, there was a breakaway from the existing paradigms. The most groundbreaking was the change to the critical processes. Employees were encouraged to take whatever time they felt appropriate with regards to vacation. The new award policy paid top of the market salary, letting employees choose how much of their compensation will be in the form of equity. Netflix believed that employees were grown-up adults and therefore sophisticated enough to understand and judge their personal tolerance for risk. Employees were encouraged to challenge the status quo and question the relevance of the firm's operating norms. And these actions were animated by a humanistic belief that learning was able to lead creativity. People having freedom and responsibility as core values materialized into a change in the communication policies. Instead of shifting to a formal organization system, Netflix went in the opposite direction. All of this allowed Netflix to achieve a unique, unprecedented culture. If we examine Netflix's change through the lens of Kotter's model, we can see firstly that a sense of urgency existed with the letting go of 30% of employees. Next, the hiring of McCord together with Hastings really formed a coalition that was built on fear of failure and restoring employee morale with a new vision. Instead of adopting a top-down approach and forcing a new mission statement on employees, together with their people, they created a story and really broke it down into plausible narratives which could resonate with employees. They built a story of rebirth of an underdog trying to slay Goliath, which was essentially Blockbuster, by becoming more flexible, fun, really stimulating a creative organization. The vision narrative was a metaphor like a sports team. So unlike other companies that envision their team as a family, Netflix instead aimed to resemble a dream team like Real Madrid when they had the Galacticos. People were essentially there to give their best for the team, care intensely about each other for the collective achievement. The changing culture very much led to a transition of a communication intensive one. There was minimal resistance, such as the vacation policy change. However, it was managed through consultation and support on an individual basis. In the same breath, the revised policies also created quick wins with a positive impact on staff morale. In terms of maintaining momentum, Netflix created communities of practice. As opposed to teams, these were self-governing, informally formed, and with minimum managerial input. These communities were essentially change agents who drove the strategy, generated new lines of business, helped solve problems, and really promoted the spread of best practice within the organization. In terms of institutionalizing the changes, creating the internal cultural deck, this was key. On the next slide here is an illustration of the deck created that really articulates a culture based on mutual trust. In terms of issues and challenges, firstly, there were some loopholes. The reality versus the ideology were very different. The no rules culture had rules. The expense policy newly created had more limitations to the previous one. Secondly, employee performance and accountability, there were some challenges there. The lack of structured performance reviews, that was an issue. In their pursuit for perfection, I'd say harsh communication was laid out in public when it came to mistakes. And this really led to a culture of fear at times. And lastly, really the new policies, both investors and auditors had real concerns about the no rules messaging, questioning the risks and implications that the business had opened itself up to, and rightly so. In terms of recommendations, these were really a reflection of the challenges. Firstly, supporting new joiners in adapting to the unique culture will better help retain talent, especially for those used to a more structured environment. Secondly, establishing a clear strategy and implementation plan. Drucker tells us, culture eats strategy for breakfast. In the case of Netflix, we see just how important it is that leaders see the community within an organization, how they describe it, how they would like it to be in order for the transformation to be as successful as possible. And really, the recommendation is that this needs to be continuously assessed, especially within the changing environment. Thirdly, applying the right approach can impact the timeline for Netflix. And following the SWORD framework, this would have increased the speed of outcomes. Finally, improving the communication strategy to reach optimum level across all stakeholders. Lastly, I turn to fellow Irishman George Bernard Shaw, where he says, progress is impossible without change, and those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. Wise words from over a century ago, but very relevant today in really making sure that organizations think about the right approach, make sure everything is aligned towards the transformation objective, and where to pay particular attention to at different times. Thank you.